My sister called me on a Wednesday in the middle of June, and the first thing she said was, "I need you to come look at something, and I need you not to tell me I'm being stupid." I was eating cereal over the sink in my apartment in Greenfield, a town 2 hours east of where she lived, and I almost laughed because Mara never used to ask for permission to be taken seriously. She used to assume it. She was the older one. She was the one who, when we were kids and our father got laid off from the paper mill, sat me down at the kitchen table and explained, in the calm voice of someone 12 going on 40, exactly how the next 6 months were going to work and what my job in them would be. So when she called me on that Wednesday and asked me, in advance, not to dismiss her, I knew something was wrong before she told me what it was. "What is it?" I said. "There's a carnival in town," she said. "The one that comes through every summer. Bellwether Amusements. Okay. Iris wants to ride the Ferris wheel." Iris is my niece. She was 7 that summer, and she had a particular relationship to Ferris wheels the way some kids have a particular relationship to horses, or to a specific cartoon character. She drew them. She built them out of plastic straws. She had a small wooden one on her dresser that her father had given her before he stopped being part of her life, and she had not, to my knowledge, ever stopped loving it. "So take her on the Ferris wheel," I said. There was a long pause, the kind where you can hear someone deciding whether to keep going or to apologize and hang up. "It stops," Mara said, "when we get on. Every year for the last 3 years it stops. They tell us it's a mechanical issue. They bring us down. They give us free ride tickets we never use. And then it starts again, and other families ride it, and it doesn't stop for them. That's a coincidence. 3 years in a row. That's still a coincidence. It stopped for the Halverson twins last year too," she said. "Their mother told me. And the Pereira family. And there's a woman who comes every year from Linden Hollow with her grandson, and she said it stops for them too. She said her daughter rode it as a child, and it stopped for her also. She said it's been doing it as long as the carnival has been coming." I was quiet for a long time. The cereal in the sink had gone soft. "What do you want me to do?" I said. "Come ride it with us," she said. "You're not part of our family the way Iris is. You don't live with us. If it's something about us, you might be the variable that breaks the pattern. And if it stops anyway, then I'll know it's the wheel and not—" She stopped. "And not something else." "Not what else?" "Just come," she said. "Please. It's only here through Sunday." I drove out on Thursday after work. The route to her house cuts through the long agricultural belt that fills the middle of our state, the kind of country where the road is straight for 15 minutes at a time, and the corn is taller than the car, by the 3rd week of June. The sky was that bruised, swollen colour it gets before a summer storm, but the storm never came, and by the time I pulled into Mara's driveway, the air was so heavy I could feel it in my teeth. She lived in a 2-bedroom rental on the eastern edge of a town called Ashbrook, population about 4,000, anchored around a town square with a gazebo in it, and a war memorial that listed 21 names from the First World War, and 3 from every conflict since. The carnival was set up in the fairgrounds on the south side, a flat patch of grass behind the elementary school, and you could see the top of the Ferris wheel from her front porch. It was lit even in the daytime, a circle of small white bulbs around the rim, turning slowly against the grey sky. Iris ran out of the house before I'd shut the car door. She was wearing a sundress with strawberries on it, and she had a crayon drawing folded in her hand that turned out to be a picture of me, with my name spelled correctly and a small heart next to it. I picked her up. She was heavier than the last time I'd visited, which had been at Easter, and she smelled like grape candy and outdoor air. "Mum said you came to ride the wheel," she said. "I did. It always stops," she said matter-of-factly, the way a kid will tell you the rules of a game she's been playing alone for a long time. But maybe not this time. Mara was standing in the doorway watching us. She looked thinner than at Easter, not in a way most people would notice, in the way a brother notices. We ate dinner at her kitchen table, frozen pizza, sliced cucumbers, a bowl of strawberries that Iris had washed herself and was very proud of, and Mara told me what she had been able to find out. The Carnival had been coming to Ashbrook every summer for at least 40 years. It used to be called Holcomb's, then it was sold and became Bellwether. Same trucks, mostly the same rides, some of the same workers. The Ferris wheel was original equipment. A model called a Big Ely Mara had looked it up manufactured in the 1960s and refurbished twice. It had 13 gondolas. The operator was a man named Cal, 60-something, grey ponytail, who'd been running that specific wheel since before Mara was born. He was the one who had let her off gently and apologetically every one of the last 3 years. "He knows," Mara said. "When I came up to the gate last year, before I even bought the ticket, he looked at me, and he looked at Iris, and his face did something, like he was sorry in advance." "For what?" "I don't know, that's why I called you." After Iris went to bed, Mara poured us each a glass of cheap red wine, and we sat on the porch and listened to the carnival from a half-mile away, the rising and falling whine of the music, the occasional shriek of a teenager from the zipper. The lights of the wheel turned and turned. "There's something else," she said. "Okay. The families it stops for." I started writing them down. The Pereiras, the Halversons, the woman from Linden Hollow whose name is Edith Mott. There's a family from over by the reservoir, the Cuellas. There's Iris and me. There used to be a family named Doring, but they moved away. And all of us are missing someone, she said. A parent or a sibling or a child. Not dead necessarily, just gone. The Pereira's oldest daughter ran away when she was 16 and they haven't heard from her in 11 years. The Halversons lost a son in a hit-and-run in 2013. Edith Mott's husband walked out of their house in 1991, and his car was found at a rest stop. That was the end of it. The Cuella's father is in prison in another state, and the kids haven't seen him since they were small. The Doerings. I don't know about the Doerings, but they moved away, so. "And you," I said. "And me," she said. "Eli." Iris's father, Mara's ex-husband. He hadn't died. He had simply, over the course of about 8 months, when Iris was 4, become less and less present. Missing weekend visits, then missing weeks, then leaving voicemails from area codes that didn't match the last ones, then nothing. He had not signed the divorce papers. He had not been served because no process server could find him. Mara had eventually had him declared abandoned by the court so she could get sole custody, and that had been the end of it, legally. Iris asked about him sometimes. Mara had a folder of pictures she kept in her closet for when Iris was older. "So the wheel stops for families with a missing person," I said. "That's what it looks like. That's a lot of families." "It's not that many," she said. "Think about how many people ride that wheel in a week. Hundreds. It's a specific set. And it's not just anyone who has lost someone. It's people whose missing persons." She stopped. She looked at her wine. "It's people whose missing person didn't get a body, didn't get an ending. Just stopped." The carnival music in the distance changed songs. It was something with an accordion in it, tinny and far away. "Mara," I said, Why are you taking Iris on this wheel if you know it's going to do something? She looked at me for a long moment. Because I want to know what it wants, she said, and because Iris loves Ferris wheels, and because I think if I don't find out what's happening, it's going to keep happening. To us every summer, until she's old enough to ask me why I won't let her get on the ride she loves. And I'd rather know. The fairgrounds opened at 6 the next evening. We walked there from Mara's house, Iris between us, holding both our hands and swinging herself off the ground, every fourth or fifth step. The light was that long, slanted gold that comes off the wheat fields in late June, and the music got louder as we crossed the elementary school parking lot, and Iris started running ahead of us before we even reached the ticket booth. The carnival was small, 8 rides, a row of food trucks, a midway of games maybe 40 yards long. The Ferris wheel was at the far end, taller than anything else by a factor of 3, the only ride you could see from the road. Up close it was bigger than I'd expected, and older. The gondolas were enclosed metal cages painted in faded primary colours, each with a number stencilled on the side. The hub of the wheel ticked audibly as it turned, a deep mechanical sound under the music. Cal was at the gate. He was exactly the way Mara had described him. Grey ponytail, leather vest over a faded work shirt, hands like a man who's been doing one specific job with them for 40 years. He was checking ride bands and helping kids step up into the gondolas, and he was doing it with the unhurried care of someone who had done it 10,000 times and still considered it important. When he saw Mara and Iris walking up, his face did something. I caught it. It was small, but it was there, a tightening around the eyes, a breath that he held for a second longer than he needed to. Then he saw me, and his face did something else. He looked at me the way you look at a piece of a puzzle that doesn't fit. Then he looked back at Mara, and back at me, and he nodded, slowly once, like he was acknowledging a question. "Evening, Mara," he said. "Evening, Cal." Iris. "Hi, Cal. You brought somebody new." "My brother, Jonah." "Jonah," he said and shook my hand. His grip was light, careful. "You'll want a ride?" "Please," Mara said. He looked at the wheel, at the line behind us, at the gondolas as they came around. Then he gestured us into number 7, which was empty, painted blue with the 7 in white. He latched the door behind us with a metal clip and stepped back to his control booth. The wheel began to turn. We rose. The first thing you notice on a Ferris wheel is how quickly the ground stops being a thing you understand. 20 feet up, the fairgrounds become a model of themselves, the people foreshortened, the rides toy-sized, the lights more concentrated. Iris pressed her face against the metal grill of the gondola and made a small sound that was just pure joy, and Mara, across from me, reached out and put her hand on Iris's back to steady her. And for about 40 seconds I thought we were going to be wrong about everything. We got to the top. The wheel stopped. It was a normal stop at first, the kind of pause that happens when other gondolas are being loaded at the bottom. We could see Cal down below, helping a family into number 12. Iris was looking out at the town, the church steeple, the line of trees along the creek, the long flat band of fields beyond. Mara and I did not look at each other. A minute passed, then 2. The other families on the wheel started to shift. You could hear a man 2 gondolas down saying something to his kids about the engineering of these things, how they always pause, how it's perfectly safe. The wheel did not move. Down below, Cal was no longer loading. He was standing at his control booth with his hand on a lever, and he was looking up. Not at us specifically, at the wheel as a whole. The way a man looks at an animal he has worked with for a long time when it is doing something he doesn't entirely understand, but has come to expect. After about 4 minutes he began bringing us down, not by running the wheel forward the way you'd think. He was running it backward, one gondola at a time, lowering us to the platform in reverse order. The man 2 gondolas down was the first to be let off, and then his family, and then a pair of teenagers, and then a woman with a baby. By the time he got to us, we had been on the wheel for 11 minutes. "Sorry, folks," he said when he opened our door. He was speaking to all 3 of us, but he was looking at Mara. "Mechanical thing. Happens sometimes. Come on out." Iris was disappointed, but not surprised. She had been told this would probably happen. She climbed out and stood next to her mother and looked back up at the wheel, which had already begun turning again, the new family in number 7 rising into the air without incident. Cal handed Mara 3 ride tickets. "For next time," he said. "Cal," she said, "can we talk to you?" He looked at the line. He looked at his assistant, a young woman in a bellwether t-shirt who was waiting at the gate. He looked at me. "I'm on till close," he said. "Come back at 11. I'll be at the trailer behind the funnel cake stand." We took Iris home. Mara's friend Denise came over to sit with her, and Mara and I walked back to the fairgrounds in the dark. The Carnival at night is a different country. The lights are brighter against the black sky. The music feels closer. The food smells thicker. And the people are different. More couples, fewer children, a particular kind of summer night looseness in the way they move. The Ferris wheel was still turning. We watched it for a few minutes from the edge of the midway. It stopped twice while we watched, both times for what looked like normal loading pauses. Then it stopped a third time and stayed stopped, and Cal began bringing the gondolas down in reverse order. From where we stood, we couldn't see who was in the gondola at the top, but we could see Cal's face, and his face was the same as it had been with us, a man watching an animal he understood and didn't. The family that came off the wheel was a mother and 2 children, maybe 10 and 12. The mother looked annoyed. The kids looked confused. Cal handed her 3 ride tickets and said something to her, and she walked off toward the parking lot with her children, and the wheel began turning again, and the next gondola at the top went up without a pause. "You see that woman?" Mara said. "Yeah. That's Annette Briggs. Her husband left 2 years ago. She thinks he's in Florida, but she hasn't heard from him." I didn't say anything. We walked to the trailer behind the funnel cake stand at 11. Cal was already there, sitting on the metal steps with a thermos of coffee and a cigarette he wasn't smoking. The cigarette was lit. He was just holding it, watching it burn down between his fingers. "Sit," he said. There wasn't anywhere to sit, so we stood. He didn't seem to mind. "I've been waiting for somebody to ask me about it," he said. "Figured it would be you, Mara. You always looked like the type that would put it together. Most people don't. Most people get off the ride 3 or 4 times, and then they stop coming, and they think it's bad luck, and they take their kids to the bumper cars instead. You came back. 3 times. 3 times this town. There are other towns. You've been on them too, probably. You just don't know it was the same wheel." That stopped both of us. "What do you mean?" Mara said. "This wheel's been around," Cal said. "Bellwether runs it in a different town every week from May to October. Same wheel, same gondolas, same operator, mostly me for the last 41 years. Before me it was a man named Halsey, and before him a man whose name I never knew. The wheel was built in 1962. It was sold to Holcomb's in '68 and to Bellwether in '94, and in all that time it has been doing the same thing in every town it stops in, to a specific kind of family. He took a drag of the cigarette finally and let the smoke out slowly. "It's not a malfunction," he said. "I want to be clear about that. I have had 3 different mechanics look at it over the years, and they have all told me there is nothing wrong with the wheel. The brake is fine. The motor is fine. The gearing is fine. The wheel stops because the wheel decides to stop. And it decides to stop for a particular kind of person." "Missing family members," Mara said. He nodded slowly. "That's part of it. Not all of it. I've watched it for 41 years and I still don't have the whole picture. But yes, somebody in the gondola has to have lost somebody. Not lost like buried. Lost like gone. Walked out, drove off, disappeared, never came back. The wheel doesn't stop for grief. It stops for absence." He looked at Mara. "It stops for people who are still waiting." Mara's face did not change, but I saw her hand close around the metal railing of the trailer steps. "Why?" she said. "I don't know why. I have a guess. I'll tell you my guess, but I want you to understand it's a guess." "Okay." "I think it's offering something," he said. "I think when it stops, it's holding the gondola at the top, because that's the place where the wheel touches whatever it touches. And I think if you stayed up there long enough, and you were quiet, and you listened, you might hear something, or see something, or I don't know, get something back." "Have you let anyone stay?" I said. He looked at me for a long time. "Once," he said. 1987, a woman named Pauline Decker. Her son had walked into a cornfield outside this very town in 1981 and never came out. She rode the wheel every year it stopped. In the 4th year, she asked me not to bring her down. She said she'd wait. She said she had all night. I let her stay up there for 2 hours and 40 minutes. There were other people on the wheel. I had to keep things calm. I told the line it was a long maintenance hold. After 2 hours and 40 minutes, she rang the bell on the gondola, and I brought her down. And she got off the wheel," Cal said. "And she walked to her car, and she drove home, and the next morning her son was sitting on her porch." The carnival music kept playing. Somewhere a child was crying about something small. He was 31 years old, Cal said. He had been 6 when he went into the cornfield. He didn't know where he had been. He didn't know how he had gotten to her porch. He didn't have any memory of the 25 years between. He was wearing the same clothes he'd disappeared in, but they fit him. He lived with her for 11 months. He didn't speak much. He ate. He sat in the yard. He watched television. And then one morning she came down, and he was gone again. And his bed was made, and there was a single ride ticket on his pillow. And she never saw him again. Mara had gone very still. "She came to the carnival the next summer," Cal said. "She didn't get on the wheel. She came to my trailer and she told me what had happened, and she gave me the ticket back, and she said, 'Don't ever let anyone stay up there. It's not a gift. It's a loan, and the interest is the rest of your life.' She died about 10 years later. I kept the ticket." He reached into his vest pocket and took out a thin, faded paper ticket, the kind with a tear-off stub, and he held it up between his fingers in the carnival light. It was orange. The ink had worn almost to nothing, but you could still read the word Bellwether on it, and underneath in smaller letters, "Good for one ride." I don't show this to many people, he said. Why are you showing it to you? Mara asked. He put the ticket back in his pocket. Because you brought your brother, he said. And in 41 years I have never seen one of these families bring a third person. They always come as just the unit that's missing the missing one. Mother and kid, husband and wife, grandmother and grandson. The wheel stops for that unit. I have wondered for a long time what would happen if somebody brought a person from outside. Somebody is not in the absence. He looked at me. And tonight, he said, for the first time, the wheel stopped for a unit with an outsider in it. So either the wheel has decided you're inside the absence too, Jonah, in some way I don't understand, or the rule is different from what I thought. Either way, I figured you deserved a conversation. Mara and I walked home in silence. The carnival sounds faded behind us. The streetlights of Ashbrook came up one by one, the way small-town streetlights do, in a sequence dictated by the age of the bulbs and the patience of the public works department. We crossed the gazebo square. We passed the war memorial. We turned onto her street. She stopped on the sidewalk in front of her house. Jonah, she said, am I inside the absence too? What do you mean? He said the wheel stopped because somebody in the gondola was waiting. Iris is too young to be waiting for her dad in the way the wheel means. She doesn't remember him well enough. So it's me. I'm the one it stopped for all 3 years because I'm the one who never stopped waiting. Mara. I thought I had, she said. I thought I was done. You don't have to be done. He left. It's allowed to still hurt. It's not hurt, it's waiting, that's different. She looked up at me. Her face in the streetlight was the face she'd had at 12, at our kitchen table, explaining to me how the next 6 months were going to work. Hurt is something you have. Waiting is something you do. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. She unlocked the door. Denise was asleep on the couch with the TV on. Iris was asleep in her bed, with the wooden Ferris wheel on her dresser turned to face the door, the way she always turned it when she went to sleep, so it would be the first thing she saw in the morning. I stayed through the weekend. Saturday we did not go to the carnival. Mara took Iris to the public pool, and I sat on the porch and tried to read a book, but did not read a word of it. Around noon I walked into town and got coffee at the place on the square and watched the carnival traffic minivans, pickups, the occasional motorcycle flow toward the fairgrounds. I tried to do the math on what Cal had said. 41 years, 20 towns a season, 3 or 4 stops a night, maybe more. That was conservatively thousands of families. Thousands of people were waiting for someone who hadn't come back. Some of them had probably done what Pauline Decker did. Some of them had probably gotten what she got and given it back, the way she had. I thought about my own absences. I have not lost anyone the way Mara has. My father died when I was 22, but he died in a bed in a hospital, with my hand on his shoulder. And I knew where his body was, and I had been to the cemetery. My mother is still alive, in a retirement community in Florida, and I call her every Sunday. I had no missing person. I should not have been a unit until the wheels stopped, unless. I sat with a coffee for a long time. When I was 8, my best friend was a boy named Theo Marsh. He lived 3 houses down from us. He had a bowl cut and a stutter and a habit of laughing at his own jokes before he finished telling them, and we were inseparable for 2 years. The summer I turned 10, his family moved away. They were supposed to send a forwarding address. They never did. My mother tried to track them down for about 6 months, And then she gave up, the way you give up on small things in a busy life, and I cried about it for a while, and then I forgot, the way 10-year-olds forget. I had not thought about Theo Marsh in 20 years. I thought about him now in the coffee shop in Ashborough. Okay, and I realized that I did not, in fact, know what had happened to him. He had not died as far as I knew. He had simply walked out of my life and into a moving truck and never came back. It was a thin connection. It was the kind of absence that doesn't even register as one, most of the time. But I was a person who had a missing person, technically, by the wheel's apparent definition, and I had not thought about Theo Marsh in 2 decades, and the wheel had stopped for me anyway, or it had stopped for Mara, and I was simply along for the ride. I didn't know which. I still don't, really. Sunday was the last night of the Carnival. They were tearing down Monday at dawn and rolling onto a town 3 counties west. Mara woke me up at 6 in the morning. She was already dressed. She had a cup of coffee in her hand, and she handed it to me without speaking and sat on the edge of the bed I was sleeping in, which was the pull-out in her living room. "I want to ride it one more time," she said. "Mara. Tonight, last show. After the line dies down, I want to ride it, and I want to ask Cal not to bring me down." I sat up. "You heard what he said about Pauline Decker?" "I heard. You'd be taking Iris with you." "I know." "You can't." "I know, Jonah, I'm not going to take Iris. Iris is going to be with you. I'm going to ride it alone." I put the coffee down on the floor. The mug was hot. I could feel the ring of heat through the carpet. "Mara, if you bring back what Pauline Decker brought back—" "I'm not trying to bring him back," she said. "Eli, I don't want him back. He left. He chose to leave. I made peace with that a long time ago, in the legal sense, and I'm still making peace with it in the other sense. But I'm doing it. I don't want him on my porch." "Then what?" "I want to know what's up there," she said. "I want to know what's been stopping the wheel for me for 3 years. I want to talk to it. I want to ask it to stop." "You want to ask the wheel to stop selecting you?" "Yeah." "Mara, that's a thing you say like it's a reasonable conversation to have with a piece of equipment." "Cal said the wheel decides," she said. "If it decides, then it can be talked to. Maybe not with words, but somehow. I want to try. Because if I don't, Iris is going to grow up coming to this carnival every year and watching her mother get walked off the Ferris wheel by a kind old man with a ponytail. And someday she's going to ask me what's wrong with us, and I don't want to have to lie to her." I looked at her for a long time. "I'll come with you," I said. "No." "Mara." "No, Jonah. The unit that gets selected is the unit with the absence in it. If you come up with me, the wheel might do for you what it does for me. It might decide you have a missing person too, and then it stops for you forever. And that's not what I came here to give you. I came here to ask you to watch Iris from the ground. You don't know it works that way. I don't know what doesn't." I thought about Theo Marsh. I didn't tell her. "Okay," I said, "from the ground." The day was the longest day I can remember. The sun did not seem to move. Iris wanted to go to the fairgrounds in the afternoon to play the games, and we took her. And she won a small stuffed dolphin at the ring toss after 14 tries. And she carried it around for the rest of the day in a kind of stunned reverence like she'd won a war. Mara was quiet but not unkind. She bought Iris a snow cone and got blue syrup on her own wrist, and didn't wipe it off for an hour. I watched the Ferris wheel from 100 different angles. It stopped twice while we were there in the afternoon. Each time, Cal brought the top gondola down backward. Each time, the family that came off had the same particular look. A tightness around the eyes. A forced casualness. An unwillingness to look at the wheel as they walked away. I started recognizing it. It was a look I had, I think, started to have myself. Around 6, we went home, and Mara made grilled cheese sandwiches, and Iris ate hers in 3 bites and asked if we were going back. Mara said yes, after dark, for the last show. Iris asked if she could ride the wheel. No, baby, Mara said, not tonight. Tonight, still Mama is going to ride it by herself, because Mama has to ask the wheel a question, and you and Uncle Jonah are going to watch from the ground and wave. What question? I'm going to ask it to leave us alone. Iris thought about this for a long time. She was eating a strawberry. Will it listen? She said. I hope so. What if it doesn't? Mara looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Then we'll figure out the next thing, she said. But I have to ask first. That's how it works with things that don't listen. You ask first. Iris nodded, slowly the way she nodded when she was learning something she intended to remember. We got to the fairgrounds at 9. The crowd was thinning. The last full ride cycles would run until 11, and then the carnival would start its breakdown. The lights were brighter than ever against the now dark sky, and the music had a desperate quality, the way carnival music always has at the end of the last night, when the workers know they're tearing down at 4 in the morning, and the riders know they're leaving the country of the carnival and going back to the country of Monday. Cal was at the wheel. He had been there for hours. His shirt was darker under the arms than it had been when we arrived. He saw us come up and he nodded, and he looked at Iris in my arms and then at Mara, and I think he understood what she was going to ask before she asked it. Cal, she said, Mara, I want to stay up there tonight when it stops. He took a long breath. I figured. How long? As long as you need to. I'll keep the line moving on the backside. People won't notice much. I'll tell them it's a long inspection. I'm not trying to get him back. I know. I just want to ask it to stop choosing me. I know. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at me. You're going to be on the ground. Yes. With the kid. Yes. He nodded. He reached into his vest pocket and took out the orange ticket, Pauline Decker's ticket, and he held it out to Mara. Take it up with you, he said. I don't know if it matters, but it's the only thing I've ever had that came back from up there. If the wheel knows its own things, it'll know that. Mara took the ticket. She put it in the front pocket of her jeans. Number 7 again, he said, and gestured her toward the gondola coming around. She kissed Iris on the top of the head. She squeezed my arm. She got into the gondola, and Cal latched the door behind her, and the wheel began to turn, and she rose. Iris and I stood at the edge of the gate. The other families on the wheel went up around Mara, a couple in 11, a pair of teenagers in 3, a father and son in 9. The wheel turned. Mara reached the top. It stopped. It was a normal stop at first, the loading pause, and then it was longer than the loading pause, and then Cal's hand went to the lever, and he held it there, but he did not move it. He looked up at the wheel. He looked at me. He nodded very slightly. He began to bring the other gondolas down in reverse order, one at a time, the way he always did, except this time he did not bring number 7 down. He brought everyone else off the wheel, gave them ride tickets, apologized and said it was a long inspection tonight, folks. Sorry about that. The line at the gate started to disperse. The assistant in the bellwether shirt looked confused for a moment, then read Cal's face and started directing people to the bumper cars. Within 15 minutes, the wheel was empty except for Mara in number 7 at the top. She was a small figure up there. The wheel's lights were on around her, a halo. I could see her silhouette through the metal grille. She was sitting still. She wasn't waving. I had told her before that we would wave, but now that she was up there, it felt wrong to wave, the way it would feel wrong to wave at someone in a hospital bed. Iris held my hand. She did not ask what was happening. She had already been told. Minutes passed. I don't know how many. Time on the ground under a Ferris wheel, waiting for your sister to do something you don't understand, is not time that can be measured the way other time can. The carnival music kept playing. A clown on stilts walked by behind us. Somewhere, a teenager was throwing up behind the tilt-a-whirl. Cal stood at his control booth with his hand on the lever, and he did not move. At some point, and this is the part of the story I am least sure of, the part that I have gone over in my head 1,000 times and still cannot quite settle, at some point, the music seemed to get quieter. Not all at once, just a steady fading, the way a radio fades when you drive out of range of the station. The shouting from the midway got further away. The smell of fryer oil and sugar receded. The lights of the wheel, which had been a steady, even white, started to look a little bit gold, a little bit older, a little bit like the lights I remembered from when I was 8 years old at a carnival with my mother and Theo Marsh before he moved away. I looked at Cal. Cal was looking at the wheel. His face was the face of a man who had seen this before and had hoped not to see it again. I looked up at the gondola. Somebody was sitting across from Mara. I want to be careful here because I am not a person who is easily convinced of things, and I know what light and distance and the desire to see a thing can do to a person's eyes. The gondola was 100 feet in the air. It was lit from the rim of the wheel and not from inside. The grille was metal mesh. I could not see clearly. But there was a second silhouette in number 7. It had not been there when Mara went up. It had not gotten off the ground. It was sitting on the bench across from her, in the position where a passenger would sit if you were riding with someone. Mara was leaning forward toward the second silhouette. Her hands were on her knees. She appeared to be speaking. The silhouette did not appear to be moving. I felt Iris's hand tighten in mine. "Uncle Jonah," she said. "Yeah, baby." "Who's that with Mom?" "I don't know." "Is it Dad?" "I don't know, baby. I don't think so, but I don't know." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said in the same matter-of-fact voice she used to tell me the rules of games, "I don't want it to be Dad." "I know. I don't want Dad to come back from up there. I know, sweetie. Tell Mum." "I can't tell Mum from down here. She knows. She already said she doesn't want him back. She's just talking to the wheel." "Okay," Iris said. She did not let go of my hand. She watched. I do not know how long Mara was up there. Cal told me later it was 1 hour and 12 minutes. From the ground it felt both shorter and longer than that. It felt like a thing that was happening outside of time. At one point the silhouette across from Mara shifted. It lifted what might have been an arm. Mara extended her hand toward it. She held it out, palm up, the way you hold your hand out to a dog you don't know. The silhouette did not take her hand. It did not do anything. But it stayed there, leaning slightly toward her, like it was listening. Mara spoke for a long time. I could not hear her. I do not know what she said. She has not, in the years since, told me. I have not asked. I think she will tell me when she is ready, and I think she may never be ready, and I have decided that both of those outcomes are acceptable. At some point, Mara reached into her front pocket and took out Pauline Decker's orange ticket. She held it up between her fingers in the carnival light. The silhouette across from her did not move, but I had the strong impression, and I want to be careful about this, because impressions are not facts. I had the strong impression that something about the air around the gondola changed. The way a room changes when somebody who has been silent decides to listen. Mara held the ticket out across the gondola toward the silhouette. The silhouette did not take it. She set it down on the bench between them. Then she leaned back. She put her hands in her lap. She closed her eyes. I could see her chest rise and fall, very slowly, like she was counting her breaths. After a long moment, she opened her eyes and rang the small brass bell that hangs on the inside of each gondola, the one that signals the operator that you'd like to come down. Cal moved the lever. The wheel began to turn. It turned slowly, slower than it had ever turned for any of the families that had been brought down before us, slower than any Ferris wheel I have ever seen turn. The gondola descended in what felt like a series of held breaths. The lights of the wheel returned to their normal white. The music came back. The smell of fryer oil and sugar came back. The carnival became again a carnival. The gondola reached the platform. Cal opened the door. Mara stepped out. She was alone. The bench across from her was empty. The orange ticket was gone. She walked over to Iris and me. She knelt and held Iris's face in both her hands and looked at her for a long moment. And then she pulled Iris into a hug that was harder than any hug I have ever seen one person give another. She held her for maybe 30 seconds. Iris hugged her back. Neither of them said anything. Then she stood up and looked at Cal. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. "What did you say to it?" he asked. "I asked it to stop choosing me. And it didn't say anything, but I left the ticket, and it was gone when I came down, so I think it took the ticket back." Cal looked at the wheel. The wheel was turning, empty. The carnival lights gleamed off its frame. "Pauline Decker said the ticket was the price," he said. "She said as long as somebody held that ticket, the wheel knew it was owed something. She gave it to me because she didn't want to be the one it was owed to anymore. She wanted me to hold it. 40 years I held it. And tonight you gave it back." "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Cal said. "I think it means the wheel might be paid up. With you, anyway. With this town, maybe. With me." He looked at the wheel for a long time. Or it might mean the wheel is owed something different now, from somebody else. I don't know how the books are kept up there. I never have. He looked at her. "You should go home, Mara. You should take your daughter home. You should sleep, eat breakfast in the morning, drink coffee with your brother, and live the rest of your life as if you didn't ride this wheel tonight. That's the only thing I have ever been able to tell anybody who came down from up there. Live the rest of your life. It's the only debt you have to pay back, to anybody, and the wheel doesn't get a piece of it." Mara nodded. She took Iris's hand. She took my hand. The three of us walked off the fairgrounds together, past the bumper cars and the funnel cake stand and the trailer behind it, past the ticket booth, past the parking lot onto the street into the warm summer dark of Ashbrook in late June. We slept late the next morning. By the time I woke up, the carnival had been torn down. You could see from Mara's porch the empty patch of grass behind the elementary school where it had been. 2 yellow trucks were pulling out of the lot. The Ferris wheel was on a flatbed, partially disassembled, the gondolas stacked on a second trailer. I watched it go. Cal was driving the lead truck. He did not look up at the porch as he passed. Mara made coffee. We sat on the porch and drank it. Iris was eating cereal at the kitchen table behind us, talking to her stuffed dolphin in a long, quiet monologue about the rules of dolphin society. "You okay?" I said. "I'm okay." "Was it Eli?" She thought about it for a long time. "I don't know," she said. "It was somebody. It wasn't him exactly. It might have been the version of him that's been missing from us, if that makes sense. Not him. The shape of him. The absence-shaped thing that I have been carrying around for 6 years. What did you say to it?" She looked at me. Her eyes were very tired, but they were also clear, in a way I had not seen them in a long time. "I told it," she said, "that I was done waiting. I told them I had a daughter who was 7 years old and who deserved a mother who was fully in the room with her, and that I had been, for 6 years, partly in some other room, listening for footsteps that weren't coming. I told them I was leaving that room. I told them I was closing the door. And I asked it if it had to choose somebody from this town next year to please not choose us. I told them we had paid. I gave it the ticket. I don't know if that's how it works, but I tried. Do you think it'll be back? The Carnival? Yes. Cal told me they come every June. The wheel? I don't know. Maybe the wheel goes wherever it goes and stops for whoever it stops for, and I am no longer one of those people. Maybe next June it will stop for somebody else in this town, and Cal will walk them off and hand them a ticket, and I'll watch from my porch. Or maybe it'll stop for me anyway. Aye, and I'll know that what I did up there didn't work, and I'll have to figure out something else." She drank her coffee. "But it doesn't matter today. Today I'm here on this porch, Sach and Iris is in the kitchen, and the wheel is on a truck headed west. That's enough for today." I thought about that for a while. "Mara," I said. "Yeah. When I was 8, my best friend Theo Marsh moved away, and his family never sent the forwarding address, and I never heard from him again. I hadn't thought about him in 20 years. I thought about him on Saturday in the coffee shop. I think that's why the wheels stopped for our gondola on Thursday. Not just you. Me too. I had a person I forgot I was waiting for." She looked at me for a long time. "What are you going to do about me?" she said. "I don't know. I think I'm going to try to find him. Even if he's fine. Even if he's fine, especially if he's fine. I think I owe him a phone call. I think I owe my 8-year-old self a phone call." She nodded. "Don't ride any Ferris wheels until you've made it," she said. "I won't." I drove home that evening. The fields on either side of the road were the same fields I had driven through on the way out, but the light was different late, golden, the long blue shadows of telephone poles striping across the asphalt every 2 seconds. Oh, I had the windows down, the radio was off. I was thinking about Theo Marsh and about Pauline Decker's son sitting on her porch in clothes that fit him for the first time, and about the silhouette across from Mara on the wheel, and I was thinking about what Cal had said about the books being kept up there in a way he didn't understand. I don't know if the wheel is paid up. I don't know if it will stop for Mara next June. I don't know if it will stop for some other family in Ashbrook, or for Cal himself, or for somebody 3 counties west on the second night of July. I don't know whether the silhouette in number 7 was Mara's husband or her father, or some composite absence-shaped thing the wheel keeps in storage and lends out to the people who come waiting. I don't know whether the orange ticket, when she set it down on the bench, was retrieved by something with hands, or simply faded the way old paper fades, or was never there at all, and Cal had been carrying a folded napkin in his vest pocket for 40 years to give the story a prop. I know that Mara slept that night for 10 hours, which is longer than she had slept in a single night since Iris was born. I know that Iris, the next morning, took the small wooden Ferris wheel off her dresser and put it in a drawer. She did not throw it away. She did not say why she had moved it. She still loves Ferris wheels, in the abstract way a 7-year-old loves a category of thing, but she has not, in the years since, asked to ride one. I don't think she will ask for a while. I know that I called my mother in Florida the Tuesday after I got home, and I asked her if she remembered Theo Marsh, and she said of course she did. Why was I asking? And I told her. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Honey, the Marshes moved to a town in Oregon. I'm pretty sure I have an old address somewhere. I never threw away my address book." She found it. She read it to me over the phone. I wrote it down on the back of an electric bill. The next week I wrote a letter to that address, a real letter, on real paper, the way you write to people from your childhood. And I asked whoever was reading it if they were Theo Marsh or knew where Theo Marsh was, and if they were, I would like to know how he was, and to tell him that I had been thinking about him. 3 weeks later I got a letter back. It was from Theo's mother. Theo had died in 2009 in a car accident outside Portland. He had been 31 years old. He had a wife and a son. His mother sent me a picture of him from the year before he died. He had grown into a tall, gentle-looking man with the same eyes he'd had at 10. She thanked me for writing. She said Theo had talked about me over the years more than I might have guessed. She gave me the address of his widow, in case I wanted to write to her, which I did. So that, too, is part of the story. The wheel had stopped for me as well as for Mara, and the person I had been waiting for had been gone for a long time, and I had not even known I was waiting. The wheel knew. The wheel keeps a longer book than we do. I am writing this in the spring. The Carnival will be back in Ashbrook in about 6 weeks. Mara has not told me whether she is going to take Iris. I have not asked. I think she does not know yet. I think she will decide on the day, the way she decides most important things. I think that whichever she decides will be the right one, because she is the one deciding it, and she is fully in the room now, in a way she was not before. What I do know is this: the wheel turns somewhere right now, in some other town 2 states over, with its faded, primary-coloured gondolas, and its hub that ticks audibly under the music. Cal is at the controls. His hand is on the lever. He is watching the wheel the way you watch an animal you have worked with for a long time. He is waiting to see who it stops for tonight. It will stop for somebody. The somebody it stops for will be carrying an absence they may or may not know they are carrying. They will be brought down, gently, by a kind man with a ponytail, and they will be handed a ride ticket they will not use, and they will walk back to their car wondering what is wrong with them, and they will not, most of them, ever come back. A few of them will. A few of them will come back 3 years in a row. A few of those will figure out the pattern. A few of those will eventually ask Cal to leave them up there, and Cal, who knows what the wheel costs and what it offers and what it takes in payment, will move the lever and hold it and wait. I do not know what they will see up there, in the gondola across from them. I do not know what they will say. I do not know whether they will get what they came for or be released from what they came for or come down carrying something heavier than they went up with. But I know now that the wheel is real, and I know that absence is the currency it uses. And I know that if you live long enough, you are going to lose somebody who does not get an ending, a friend who moved away, a parent who left, a child who walked into a cornfield, a husband who got in his car and didn't come back, and that the part of you that keeps waiting for them is a small light, and the wheel, in its turning, can see that small light from a long way off. The kindest thing I can tell you is what Cal told Mara. Live the rest of your life. The wheel doesn't get a piece of it. Whoever you are waiting for, whoever you forgot you were waiting for, write them a letter. Make the phone call. Open the drawer. Find out what happened. Do it on solid ground in daylight with both feet on the earth, and do not, if you can help it, do it 100 feet in the air in a metal cage in the dark with carnival music playing and a stranger sitting across from you who might be wearing the shape of someone you used to know. And if you do find yourself on that wheel and it stops and you feel the air change and you sense that there is somebody on the bench across from you who was not there when you got on, ring the bell. Just ring the bell. Cal will bring you down. He always does. He's been doing it for 41 years and he is, in his way, the kindest man I've ever met. And he is the only person standing between that wheel and the rest of us. And someday he is going to retire, and someone else is going to take the lever, and I do not know who that person will be, or what they will understand, or whether they will know to keep the orange ticket safe in their vest pocket against the night somebody is brave enough to ask for it back. I hope they will. I hope, when the wheel comes to your town, you will not be one of the people it stops for. And I hope, if you are, you have a brother or a sister or a friend on the ground holding the hand of someone you love, watching you, ready to walk you home. That, in the end, is the only rule I learned. The wheel spins in the air, we answer on the ground.